So, you want to hit for 25,000 damage occasionally. Well, if that's the case, I've got, a pretty good video for you right here, just saying, so stay tuned. What's up guys, OhDough here, and today I have a build video for the axe. And I just want to say that I normally don't play the axe, or at least I haven't in a while, but now there's actually a reason for me to play the axe, because there's a game mode that actually goes really well with the way the axe works, and that new game mode is Escalation. So the axe in itself is a weapon that does better over time. Like, it's not a weapon that just pops off at the very beginning of the fight. That's not how it works. Instead, it's the opposite. This is a weapon that you kind of have to build up the damage to get to a point where it just does some devastating numbers. And to do that, you have to build a meter for your axe. And because that's a really important factor of playing this weapon, I want to describe that before I describe the build. If you want to build really fast meter for the axe, you can do a move called the wood chopper. Well, it's not the actual name for it, but it's what I call it. For anyone that wants the actual name of this attack, it's called the vertical ripper. And this move, if you can use it properly, will give you the most meter gain in the shortest amount of time. But using it properly, it also requires the behemoth you're fighting to stand still, just like you have to stand still, which makes it something that's easier said than done. But if you do manage to pull it off, you'll get an insane amount of meter, and if you can actually land some consecutive hits with this wood chopping move, then you'll get pretty much max meter in no time. So that's a quick tip for the axe, and I don't want to go into any more depth on how to play the axe, because if I do, I might as well just make this a axe guide video instead of a build video. But that's a lot of time, so instead I want to go with the build video idea. And to get into the build for this weapon, it's not that complicated actually, and it's kind of pretty easy to get except for one item. But to get started, we have the Sovereign's Wrath axe. This is an axe from Koshai. And the reason I'm using this is because it is a Terra weapon, and Terra weapons are strong against shock behemoths, which in this case, Escalation has a shock behemoth at the very throne of the entire mode. So this weapon does really well against that behemoth. And actually in the entire Escalation, it does pretty well regardless, which is kind of mind-blowing to me, and it's kind of a little relief to see that a weapon like this, which I never ever use, isn't that bad in this mode. It's actually kind of fun. And to talk about my special modifier for this axe, I have the special called Relentless Onslaught. If you want this special, you have to get 500 still marks and buy it from Lady Luck. That is the Whammons that sells all the trial stores goodies, so if you want this special, you're going to have to do that first. And I do suggest doing trials at least on normal to get your still marks, because there's a ton of stuff in that store that does make the game more fun to play, because it just changes how you play it because of the specials and mods, all that good stuff, so definitely give it a shot. Now for my modifier, I have Overcharged Cylinder. This is by far the current best modifier for the axe in this mode, because you get 75% damage at your 4th determination stack. And that's a ton, and you can keep it the entire round after building it the first time. That's the best part. So this is just an insanely awesome modifier for the axe, and it actually gets to be able to shine in Escalation because this combat is longer format. So that's part of the reason why the axe is more fun. You just have these things that make it to where it's just better overall in Escalation. Like, once you build up your meter, it's not like, oh, the behemoth's dead now. It's like, no, I'll kill this behemoth this round, but there's more rounds to go to. So the main thing here is just make sure you build determination really fast and try not to lose it, or else this modifier will lose a ton of value and you'll lose a ton of damage. And to talk about the gear, there's one piece in this gear set that is going to be hard to get if you're new to the game, and that will be the helmet, which is the Shroud helmet. If you're someone that cannot use this helmet because it's too far on the quest line, your other options would be the Pangar helmet or the Drask helmet. So these two options aren't going to be better, but they are alternatives because they both have a power slot, which lets you put in the cells you want to use in this build. Anyway, moving onwards, we have the Boreas chest piece, because we love Iceborne, and this chest piece has a defense slot to slot in the young Iceborne. And then for the gloves, I have the Gnasher grips, which give me Rage Hunter and a power slot. And the feet, again, are going to be some Boreas feet, because we love Iceborne, chat. It's the best. And it has a technique slot. So in a perfect world, I wouldn't even have the Gnasher grips, and instead I would have something that gives me either Sharpened or Discipline. That would be what I want to have in my build, but that's not the case, so we kind of get robbed in that kind of sense. And one thing I forgot to mention is that for the Koshai weapons, they have Sharpened on them, which isn't actually a bad thing in Escalation. I don't think it's like the worst thing in the world to have, because you do get a ton of part breaks, and if you're farming for part breaks, this is a really good build to farm Escalation with. Like, you can just farm so many parts. Like, I had a group where it was me, Revy, and Solstice, and we were just owning. We were owning an escalation, getting all kinds of parts, getting all kinds of breaks, and it was a good time. And on top of that, you also have the unique effect where after not dealing damage for 6 seconds, your next 2 attacks deal 25% damage. So this actually works really well with the axe. It's just unlucky that it's only 2 attacks. I kind of wish it was 3 because that would be so perfect for Relentless Onslaught. But I digress. Anyway, this is a really good unique effect for your axe because of the special. So keep that in mind when you're throwing your Relentless Onslaught so you can actually aim it properly and get the most out of your damage. But getting back to the builds, I want to talk about my lantern choice. So for me, I went with the Drask's Eye. This is so I can get some more damage from my instant cast, and also it's just a really easy to aim, hold the cast, so I always get damage out of this. You can instead go for whatever lantern you want to. My other suggestion would be the Emberman Lantern because of the attack speed or things of that nature. But for me, I like the Drask's Eye because I've learned how to play the axe without having a ton of attack speed. Although it is more fun to have attack speed with it, and I do suggest having some form of attack speed on the axe, otherwise you're going to be in for a bad time. That's just how I feel. But to go into the cells of this build, you're going to have +6 Conduit for the attack speed from the hold the cast of your lantern, +6 Iceborne for lifesteal and damage reduction, Overpower for more damage against behemoths when you break apart, or you stagger it, or boop it, Rage when you're under 50% health, which is going to happen because we have Discipline as well, which puts us at half-life at the very start of the round, and we cannot go past half-life, which is a nice feature, and it makes this build overall work better. You don't have to bring Discipline, although it is highly suggested, and you can instead bring, you can change Discipline to be either another +3 Rage Hunter or +3 Sharpened, but I do suggest using Discipline, just saying that that is an option if you want to do that. And then we also have +3 Sharpened for more part damage, and +3 Wild Frenzy for the attack speed. And I really want to use this Wild Frenzy. It makes it to where there have been a ton of times where if I didn't have this small amount of attack speed from just the Wild Frenzy and the Conduit, I would not be playing the axe anywhere near as well as I have been. Because it helps. It helps with timing, it helps with just getting your DPS in the small windows you have, and making sure that you can get your resolve hits in and not get knocked down. So I do suggest this. If you don't want to use it, however, I would slot in Cunning and then try and get a Warpike buddy to just give you Wallspring, because that will give you a ton of crit chance, and with that crit chance you can do some insane damage with the amplifiers in Escalation. So that's my other suggestion. And my last suggestion will be in the form of the amps I suggest taking in Escalation. So if you're playing the axe, I'll show you guys the amps that I would take in Escalation, so I've explained why. So first and foremost, if you have enough talent points, there's no real reason not to max all the amp upgrades in your talent tree, because amp upgrades will be found no matter what. They're not unlocks, they're instead upgrades. So making sure they're the max that they can be is actually kind of helpful, because if you do get them, at least they're going to be as best as they can be. Now to talk about the amp unlocks, I do not suggest taking Critical Dominion on the axe because you don't crit enough to make this that viable. And I would also avoid taking the Hero's Call or the Thunderous Mantle amp unlocks, as well as the Eidolon amp unlocks, because these are not very useful. If you like them, play them. I'm just saying that for my suggestions, I wouldn't use these. Now the amps I would use would be Pack Tactics and Locus of Power. And I'm not sure if I would definitely suggest Violent Impact because you don't have much crit chance in the build I've given you. If your friend's using the Wellspring special on the Warpike, then they're giving you 25% crit chance, and this would actually make Violent Impact not a bad option, because around that point you'd have around 32.5% crit chance, and that's not a bad deal at all. So keep that in mind. And that's going to actually do it for this video, y'all. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and hopefully the gameplay or the build taught you something new. But if you guys liked the video, leaving a like does help out the channel and the video a lot. And if you guys do make purchases in the Epic Games Store or in the in-game Dauntless Store, using my creator code, which is OhDough, does help me out because I get a small kickback from the purchases y'all make. And I want to make that clear because a lot of folks keep asking me, oh, how does your creator code help you? And that is pretty much how it helps me. Anyway guys, thank you all for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.